Thank you so much for joining me today, Bron. I know that a lot of people are thinking about having a home birth, possibly for the first time, just with everything that is going on. So you're a home birth midwife in the Northern Rivers in New South Wales, Australia, aren't you? So just yesterday, I did a poll on my Instagram page at Doula Wisdom, and nearly 70% of people said they're actually thinking of switching to home birth with everything that is going on. So there's probably a lot of questions that people have, especially if they, just thought it was going to be at the hospital and now they're like, actually, maybe it's better at home. Do you have any advice for people that are thinking of making that switch?
Yeah, I have certainly noticed an increase in inquiries from women. I think that it's really important that people reach out and speak to local privately practicing midwives to talk about their individual circumstances. It's good to just reach out and find out what's in your area, who's around, and start asking the questions. Hopefully a silver lining in this pandemic will be that more women know they have choices and have better access to those choices.
That continuity of care is so fantastic when you have an independent or home birth midwife caring for you. I guess just to give a picture of what might be different with a home birth when you have your own home birth midwife versus just being, in the system.
I think the biggest difference that I've noted from working as a midwife in the system and I've worked many years, on and off on different, over the years on caseload programs, so midwifery practice, where a small group of midwives provide, continuity of care. And I think comparing to home birth, home birth seems to be a lot higher continuity of care. I like the same, you're seeing the same one person for the majority, if not all, of your pregnancy visits, your labour, your birth, and for 6 weeks in-home postnatal visits. So it's more opportunity to, for me as well, to get to know the individual woman and her family and her situation. I think that the care generally seems to be a lot more individualised. One of the benefits, I think, of privately practicing midwifery care is that, I can't speak for all privately practicing midwives, but I feel like I can offer a more individualised care because I'm not needing to follow hospital policies as such. I can actually talk to women about her desires and her wants, and it feels to me that there's a lot more, the woman is the one more in control. She's the one making the choices, and they're all very informed decisions. We have a lot more time to spend on educating on different choices and accessing more information and discussing those. So it just seems to be more driven by what the woman wants. And I think that plays out when I look at my statistics and look at, all the different choices women have made. Like, it's not like all the clients that I care for all have this test or that test or have a birth this way or do it that way. There's such a vast range of choices that people make. So it feels a lot more individualised and personalised.
So good. And that makes a lot of sense then, if people are taking health into their own hands and becoming, educated and aware and just choosing what feels best for them and not what someone else did or what someone else said. So I love that the home birth midwife is really, you're a part of the team and you're there to support. You're not there to tell them what to do.
Your experience of birth and, as you're making this journey into becoming a mother is really important. It has an ongoing effect on your psychological health and your emotional connection with your baby and with your partner and with your extended family. And, it's not just a day in your life. It's has a huge ongoing ripple effect. So, yeah, there is undoubtedly so much evidence to support home birth as being a really valid option for women.
Absolutely. And I think that would, like you said, travel into then their parenting experience. And I know that the rates of postpartum depression are so high. And so having a good experience during the birth, having good support, and then that ripple on effect will also help to decrease those levels so that women do feel more supported and more empowered in the process. I think that they've already discovered that during pregnancy and through the birth, and then that will lead into parenting, which affects the children.
And I think that you really touched on that when you said about, women feeling more supported, because when we talk about women's experience of birth and whether it's a positive experience, it doesn't necessarily mean that that birth has to look a certain way. What is more likely for women to come away from birth and, early mothering as a positive is their level of support, their level of how much control they feel like they had over their choices, were they really listened to and respected, supported. That's what's important. And when you're having that fundamental supportive care, then even if your birth doesn't look the way that, you may wanted it to look, you can still walk away from that experience feeling that it was positive and feeling empowered.
Definitely. The right support makes all the difference, and definitely having a home birth midwife on your team will just, help, I think, people feel more comfortable and supported, and know that they can make the right decisions for them.
That's right. And that's the point. Well, with you can also get that continuity and have a privately practicing midwife. Even if you're planning to birth in the hospital, you don't have to have a home birth. You can get all of your pregnancy care and all of your postnatal care with a privately practicing midwife, with the same midwife. So there are so many options that you have. Some privately practicing midwives have visiting rights or access to some hospitals. So, there are a lot of ways that you can do this. And the first step is to get in touch with some midwives and start asking questions and see what's around your area.
I imagine that for people, one of the big questions is home birth safe?
That meta-analysis that just came out this month with over 500,000 women, it shows that this safety is being proven to be, it's just as safe, if not safer, than hospital for women who don't have any pre-existing medical conditions, who are considered low risk and who are supported by skilled, well-integrated midwives. And, especially if they live within a reasonable distance to the hospital should backup or emergency care be needed. But, privately practicing midwives are highly trained, skilled healthcare practitioners, that this is their specialisation. We are trained to deal with problems. We carry the equipment we need to deal with those problems, and we have the skills to recognise and transfer in a timely manner and appropriately. So, I would definitely encourage people to talk to privately practicing midwives in their area and ask them their stats, ask them what their transfer rate is, ask them what their outcomes are. You'll find that, this is definitely a safe option for women and for babies. And that's safety physically and emotionally and psychologically.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I think that is a big difference with birthing somewhere else versus birthing in your home, that there's so many, I guess, little connections that happen when you feel safe and you're in your home and it's comfortable and things can happen in their own time, and the midwife's going to come to you. People aren't worried about when is the exact time to get in the car and transfer and go somewhere else. And, when it comes to birthing, we are animals, aren't we? We require that. We need to feel safe. Ideally, it's a dimly lit space, and we need to feel that we aren't being watched and that we are, warm, and we can get instinctual and do what we need to do to have our babies. And that's just an amazing thing, to be able to stay at home where you are comfortable and to have an expert come to you so that you can also let go of that sort of thinking part of your brain and just know that your midwife has got it. If there's anything or any suggestions that you might need, position changes or when's the right time to get in the pool or things like that, they can just I've seen it time and time again, women can just let go of a lot, and they're not trying to hold on to controlling it. They're just allowing their instincts to take over, and birth tends to flow more easily when we feel safe and supported. And that home is a perfect place for that.
Definitely, there's no place like home. So we humans are we are mammals, just like all the other mammals that give birth to live young. This is a very orchestrated hormonal event, and we can't think our way through this hormonal process. In fact, the thinking part of our brain, and this is what the neocortex, this is the part of our brain that probably interferes with birth, and is why people think that humans have more trouble giving birth than other mammals. But it's understanding that that's how birth works, and how best to support it. And your environment has a huge impact. I mean, they say the first intervention that happens in a woman's labour is leaving her house, leaving her nest. We're the only mammals that do it to give birth. And we really need to, your home is your safety. It is your refuge. It's where you do feel the safest. How you feel, that feeling when you're home, you're like, I'm home. Although with everyone in isolation at the moment, some people are probably really keen to get out of their home, but just that feeling of release that you have when you're in your own space and with your own things around you, with your own bed and your own food, your own smells. These are all very primal, the effect it has on us, on our bodies. I once read something about how, because everyone's heard of, the story, like if they've got a pet cat who's giving birth, and, they go and find their little secret, little dark place to be private. And you said about birth women needing not to be watched, to be able to fully feel unobserved, to be able to let the hormones flow. And we know that if we disturb a cat who's in the middle of labour, the cat her labour will stop, or she'll run away, and she'll find, and it won't start again until she has privacy. And we know this with all other mammals. Like, look at zoos, when they're animals in zoos are giving birth, and they set up a camera to record it because they know if they're too involved and they're too watchful and present, then that will interfere with the animal being able to safely give birth. I read this story once about like really expensive racehorses that are worth millions of dollars. And when they give birth, they go to extreme lengths for the horse not to notice the presence of a vet on standby. They're not in the same room. They make sure the horse can't smell the vet, the human presence, can't hear them. And the reason they do that is because they know that an undisturbed birth works better and is safer for the mother and the baby.
So I guess people having more awareness and understanding around how birth works, and like you said, that's when we feel relaxed and we feel unobserved. And I kind of think of it too, like the hormones are similar with making love, and I know I would certainly be more relaxed in my own bedroom at home than going somewhere else with potentially someone I don't know, in bright lights, potentially doors opening and people coming in, and that's setting up that same orchestration of hormones to release so that the next one can release and labor can progress. The hormone of oxytocin is shy, and we do need that time and space, don't we?
Imagine trying to reach climax when you're making love, if you've got strangers in the room with a laptop taking notes and asking you, are you there yet? Are you close? Every time, like it's the same hormones, as you say. And we really need to have a better understanding of how birth works and the importance of the environment and the support. It's great to be able to have the opportunity to talk to people about this, and that people are asking more about it. And I think culturally we might start to understand birth a bit better by having more of these conversations.
Yeah, I hope so. I know that home birth for some people does have a bit of a stigma around it. I mean, it's funny because it wasn't that long ago we were all birthing at home, and then it switched to mostly birthing in the hospital, and slowly more people are sort of having an interest in home birth again. But hopefully through the silver lining on this pandemic and people making different choices is that they realize that home birth is a viable option, and that with the right support it can be a very satisfying experience, and then they can then tell their stories of how home birth really helped them to enter parenthood in a really great space. Yeah, we can hopefully change that story a little bit.
Interestingly enough, from the conversations that I've had with women who have been calling me, who had been planning on birthing in the hospital and now are looking to change their plans, the concern doesn't seem to be that they are afraid that they will catch the coronavirus and develop COVID-19. Their concerns seem to be more along the lines of their rights to birth and receive the care that they would like. I've heard, not necessarily in Australia, but in different parts of the world, making even more restrictions, like some women are not being able to access water birth, and there's limits on support people, there's limits on visitors or even your partner visiting postnatally, and a lot of people are really worried about that impact.
Because what we're hearing time and time again, the support and how someone is feeling during their birth is what they remember. And so if they can't have their most valuable people there supporting, because I've heard in some places even partners aren't allowed to support, which that's not going to help birth outcomes. I know what the hospital's trying to do, but I'm so glad that women are going, well, that doesn't suit me, what are my options? And looking to midwives like you to say, well, it wasn't my first preference, but maybe it will actually suit me better. And yeah, I think that more people will be having better experiences through having home birth open up as a viable option, so that they can have their support network there and they can have all the things that they desire. Yeah, and I'm, as you know, a big fan of education and people knowing what their choices are, knowing what their options are, and knowing how to, I guess, take some control back. Having studied naturopathy with you, that's where we met. I believe that having some influence in your own health is a big part of you leading a healthy life and being happy with the choices that you make and feeling empowered and feeling you're in the driver's seat of your life. So home birth is a big part of that too. It's sort of taking that self-control back and realizing that this is your story to be written, and knowing the options that are going to help you to feel the most supported, have the healthiest, happiest experience. So definitely get educated, and there are obviously a lot of online opportunities now, and of course I have my online antenatal course, the Map to Birth and Beyond, and we do cover things like preparing for birth, and what normal birth looks like, and talking about the hormones and how they interact with each other, and how to encourage oxytocin, and how to dampen that fight flight adrenaline, and a lot of coping techniques, which I think probably for people wanting a home birth is something that they do wonder about. Is like, well, okay, so in a hospital there are a lot of pharmaceutical options for helping with the intensity of labor, and so what inner resources do you have? And so learning how to harness the power of your breath and the power of moving your body and all these different things. So I cover all of that in my course, Map to Birth and Beyond. And if anyone is interested out there in learning more and taking power back and feeling that you are in the driver's seat of your experience, then definitely head to doulawisdom.com so I can support you more, because I really do believe that the right support makes all the difference. And of course, having someone like Bronwyn on your team as a home birth midwife, if you are in the northern rivers of northern New South Wales, Australia, then how can people find out more and reach out to you, Bron?
Well, they can visit my website, which is holisticmidwifery.com.au, or you can join the Friends of the Lismore Birth House Facebook group. And you'll be able to find my contact details on the website, or direct message me, and on Instagram as well. It's the Lismore Birth House. I think that what you talked about, like that preparation, that psychological preparation, and learning the tools to help our bodies to get into that parasympathetic state, that that we're not in our neocortex thinking brain, but we're in this this state that is most conducive to the optimal flow of hormones, which will make your labor more efficient and your birthing easier. And different women find different techniques useful. And it's really important, if you are changing your birth plans, as I said, to speak to individual privately practicing midwives in your area, but also see what other resources you have to help you prepare for that. Because as you said, you really are taking your health into your own hands in terms of, no one can birth this baby for you. But with that comes the empowerment of, I did this. Yeah, but you need to be able to make it easier for you to do. Learning some of those skills can really help you to prepare for how to, work with your body and work with your baby, and to help make this a positive experience for you.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with everyone. Bronwyn is so holistic and supportive and fun, and it's just, things are so much easier with a really loving home birth midwife on your side.
I really enjoy always talking with you and sharing, the amazing, magical experience of birth with you. We've been to a few births together now, and it's always so lovely.
We love answering questions and love helping you to feel more empowered and, really, really excited. I think, but it's ideally people are feeling really excited about birthing their baby and entering into parenthood. And yeah, we'd love to support you more. So reach out. All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.